Well, hey there, everybody. Welcome back to Astroneer. I'm Joe Mama, your host. And as you can see, we've got some crazy stuff going on right now. We are currently playing in a creative world. This is a world that is completely separated from the one we've been playing in up to this time. I wanted to do this now that we've basically won the game. I wanted to get us to a point where we're no longer constrained by having to get resources to go build things. We want to test ideas right now. And the idea that I've been playing around with here is the science farm. From what little information I've seen, this is not a new concept in Astroneer. I know other people have come up with designs, but I really wanted to come up with something that was mine. So this is sort of a proof of concept. And if there's anybody out there who doesn't know how to do this, hopefully this is an idea that can get them going. What I've got here, the basic concept is I've got a train running in a loop, okay? There are railroad tracks. Oops. Oh, come on, get out of there. Yeah, don't go in. By the way, in creative mode, it's the first time I've ever used creative mode was to do this. Yeah, we are, oh, by the way, this is version 1.26, which if you don't know, added a few things, one of which is this Jurassic Park looking ball? Personal transportation device, what is it called? Let's get out of it. And what is it? It's got a name, a gravity globe, recreational item. Okay, I've never seen this before. Maybe this is a thing that is in the game. I've just never, maybe, oh, you know what? Maybe it is. Maybe that's, if we go to, oh, I seem to remember. I just thought it was like an actual ball, but I guess not. Maybe not? It's not at the bottom of the list here? Oh, it sure is. Gravity globe right there. No, but then there's this thing, the recreational sphere. That's different. Huh. That can trigger motion sensor. Okay. Okay, well there's a thing. Alright, anyway, that is good to know because, oh, you know what? Let's go ahead and make it. Because now I'm curious about something. Is it just a ball, or does it have does it have things, can it hook onto something? Oh, man. Because I set up some motion sensors here, trying to figure out a way to get this to work. Okay, that triggers motion sensors, but I bet it doesn't stick to something, does it? Does it? No, it doesn't. I was hoping maybe it's stuck to a railroad car, but it doesn't seem to do that. Which means you would have to pass through that. Otherwise, a motion sensor only triggers when you pass through it. But, anyway, getting sidetracked here. I am seriously getting sidetracked. Okay, so, to explain again, the concept here is we've got a train running in a loop. And it doesn't even have to have a locomotive. It can just be one or two railroad cars, one or two cars. And it's running around in a loop. And let's take a look at this right here. This is an auto arm that is positioned to pick up research samples from this plant right here. We all have seen these plants before, and we know they grow research items. And as soon as the research sample, rather, appears, the auto arm grabs it, and since the blue deposit area, if you will, the arm has two spheres of influence. It's got the green where it picks up, and it's got the blue where it deposits. And the track runs through that blue sphere of influence. So when the train runs through it, which we should see at some point, the train will run through it, and this thing will deposit the sample onto the train. And let's see if we can find the train. And notice it's bringing a whole slew of new samples back to the science center. Okay. There, it drops them off. These arms download them into this central hub right here, and then these three arms feed it from the hubs, from that central hub, and each one can feed 2 or 3 research, what do you call these things? Research chambers. So we're basically keeping this thing supplied with research samples, and watch this. If we take a look, it's coming in, science is coming in at 180 bits per minute. That's pretty good. That's 3 per second. If we can keep all of them full, then we should be able to keep it at least above 100, depending on, there's different types of samples. and each sample gives different rates and for different periods of time. And I've been tweaking this design for a while, as you can tell, because we're up to 76,000, almost 77,000 bytes. And I have not done any manual research. That's purely this farm. Let's, when the train comes back, we're gonna follow it, and I'm gonna show you what I did. But basically, there's a whole bunch of these setups right here. I took a little survey throughout the area and found places where the track passes by these plants, and then set up systems like this. Okay, it's obviously we've petered out a little bit. There's just 2. Now let's follow the train. Now we're going to talk about the train itself in a little bit, because that was another trick to get the train to keep going around in a loop. All right, so we can float around, which is pretty cool. And up in the mountains, it comes by these origin spots right here. There's one right here. And this is very crude looking, I grant you, but it's a start. This was a proof of concept. This is just to see if it works, and it goes past all these things. Right now, there's nothing to deposit. Okay, and then you'll watch as this goes by. It's why you no put things? Why you no put things? What? Why you no put things? Okay, well that's just weird. Well, let's make another trip, because I have noticed some weirdness with this thing. It's not 100% stable. In other words, sometimes if you step out of the chunks or whatever, I'm assuming this has chunks, and it's like right there. Okay, there you go, deposit. But why did none of those deposit? Okay, that deposits. Why did these not deposit? Are they plugged in? Is there power? I can see the yellow power here. There is power. It should do it. Okay, there you go. What was your problem before? Okay, that one should have deposited, but it didn't. I don't know why. Okay. Okay, and then all of them get deposited here, and they get ready for redistribution to the science. So that's how that works. One of the trickiest things is getting the train to keep going around in circles, because here's how this station works. Okay, let's examine it. And I set up the mode so that the station stop mode, the station stops any cars that haven't been called by the player, which means you can set a car in motion, but if you haven't like called it, which means going to the base of the pillars of the pylons and hitting the call button, that calls the nearest car. This station will not stop those cars, but it will stop any cars that are in motion otherwise. But once it stops the car, it doesn't put it back in motion. It stops it. Oh, by the way, and then the next level is the station loading mode. This station unloads the car. So if there's anything on it, it gets downloaded onto these medium storage units, and then that can get picked up by these auto arms to be redistributed. So something has to send the train back on its merry way again. So that was very tricky, because otherwise it would just stop and it would sit there. Notice the train station has these little target points here, the target pins, and it also has a receptacle for such pins. So I figured something out. Remember a few episodes back, we found out that these pylons will activate when a train goes by. That's pretty cool. If we put something here on these pylons, what's going on? Okay. Nope, just reloading. Bunch of arms reloading. And where are we at for science? 180 per minute. Still going strong. Alright. Yeah, anytime the train goes by these pylons, it activates them. So I told it to take one of the targeting pins and put it to this delay repeater. So when the train passes this repeater, or it passes this pylon, it activates whatever the pylon's attached to. And I drew this pin to this delay repeater, and I watch this. So watch the repeater. Passes, it's activated, it starts counting, and then as soon as the repeater gets to the end of its time, let's hit F to examine it. I set it on maximum delay, which is 25 ticks. As soon as the repeater gets to the end of its countdown, it sends an activation signal, And I brought the activation signal all the way over here to this far receptacle, because if I brought it to this receptacle, it would send the train the other way. I don't want it to do that. I need the train to go in this direction so that it hits the pylon, it hits this rail post before it gets to the station. This delay, by the way, gives the train time enough to download. The train can stop, it downloads its cargo, and then by that time, this is finished counting down, and the train receives the signal, and it can keep going on its way. So that's how you keep the train going in a loop. And we can watch it work. Just take a look. Watch this count down. Boom, there it goes. And meanwhile, the train has had time to download onto the station. So it's that easy. And I was finding a million different ways to overcomplicate it, so it was interesting. By the way, you still need to have power. So just for simplicity, I set up these RTGs. I just set up 12 of them, and each of them produces 4 units per second. That's 48. Should be more than enough. But this really was a proof of concept to see if such a system could actually work. And I'm thinking that one possible use for this is when you start your game. I'm talking, this is probably a mid-game option. Oh, did it put something in my backpack, didn't it? Yeah, it sure did. Okay, let's put these back here. It's not 100% stable, just so you know. If you leave the planet, maybe even if you leave this general area, the science might trickle to 0. These chunks are not spawned in, then it might cause issues, it might shut science down, I don't know. I've actually seen the train stop going around in a loop. I had to come back here and set the cars on their way again, because if you look at, let's see, can you do that? Like if I put this car right here, I can hit F to start it, and that's what I had to do. I basically had to restart the car, and it'll go on its merry way. But here's my thought. As you research railroads and you get railroads, you could build a system like this. You should already have science. Trains should come with the railroad, and with this, you should be able to set up a railroad that runs locally to your area, to different areas where science is found, like these bushes right here, or let me show you some of the other bushes that I found them. You may have already seen them. Sometimes you'll find these green bushes have little bulbs of research samples in them, and they can have up to like 5 if I remember correctly. Like you can already see some of them are here, I think. There's at least one right there. Research sample, yeah. There's at least one already there. If you find a bunch of those, run the railroads past them, set up your little auto arms, and then bring them back to a train station. Oh, see, look at that. That's weird. Why you no go? It stopped. Why'd you stop? Okay, there we go. It's like that. Send it on its way. I don't know why it stopped. That's very strange. But you might have to do that. You might have to intervene once in a while. But it's still, I mean, almost 80,000 that have just trickled in on its own. So that is not a bad thing at all. So this system really does work. Somebody sent me a comment and told me how these battery sensors work. Do I have the little batteries here? I don't, because I don't think it works with the little batteries. You put the battery sensor on the battery just like you would a packager or a stick of dynamite. You stick it right to the battery sensor. Okay, now notice now it says F, cycle modes, and if we hit F, it says status waiting for batteries to fully drain. So when the battery fully drains, it sends out a signal. Let's see, what's another one? Waiting for the batteries to not be fully charged. Is that gonna work? Yep, there it goes. Okay, waiting for the batteries to not be fully charged. So as soon as the battery drains even a little bit, it will send a signal. So then when it senses it needs to activate, hopefully this pin is attached to something, I don't know, like a switch or something, or maybe a light that tells you when the battery is currently being drained. You know, that's a thought. So however you think it might work, that's how the battery sensor works. You actually have to attach the battery directly to, or you have to attach the sensor directly to the battery, okay? Totally makes sense. And I know I had done that before. I don't know why I screwed it up this time. Let's see you pull that science off of there. Awesome. And let's see you go back on your way and pick more up. And I found that with this setup, I need 2 cars. Like I said, my goal for this is that maybe you could use it in a mid-game scenario. You know, you're trying to get to other planets, you're trying to dig, get other resources on other planets. That's great. But a limiting factor for this mid-game, like it is anywhere, is going to be power. I have yet to try this in an actual survival type game where you have the limitations. So right now I've got 12 RTGs. If you're going to make an RPG, it requires nanocarbon technology, and nanocarbon technology is a pain in the ass to get. So if you don't have it readily available, these are not going to be readily available, and you're going to have to count on wind, solar, or whatever. So I will cautiously say that power is probably going to be your limiting factor for setting this up. Now, let's do some math. Each of these arms, let's see, while active, draws 1 unit of power, okay? While active, each of these research chambers draws 2 units of power. Now, each of these arms, probably not going to be active the whole time, just going to be active for a split second. These research chambers are going to be active the whole time, hopefully, so however many you set up, I mean, right now I'm drawing 16 units per second in power just in those. And then, of course, there's the arms. There's the train that's going around. That's taking up power. So, I mean, I would think you'd be looking at 25, a consistent draw of around 25 units per second. So, that is a case where the batteries could be useful. Okay, the battery sensor could be useful because you could set these batteries up as a fallback, you know, when things get really heavy, if the sun goes down and solar stops working, you could have batteries as your backup. So here comes more. There's 5 units right there. So how much were these? This is the train, I think, draws 2 units of power. Okay, 2 units per second. So 16 plus the 2. I don't know, does the station itself draw power? No, it doesn't say so. So the train draws 2, 8, that's 18. Arms, probably going to bring it up to 20. Those are all things you want to keep in mind, plus any other systems you're operating at the time. But anyway, I just wanted to show you that. Science Lab 1.0. And I think it's working pretty good. Now, if you want to not involve the train at all, one thing you could do is set up a battery similar to this. How much is this? This is 32, produces 1 unit per second. Set up a few of these, maybe with a wind turbine or a solar turbine or something, charges batteries, and all it is one of these arms, and instead of feeding onto a railroad track, it feeds directly into a research chamber. There's a thought. And you could have sites like that all over the world, you know, because it doesn't have to be connected to a central grid. It's going to count toward this number right here. Okay, now we're at 100 bits per second, so that's interesting. So anyway, something to keep in mind. 2 different approaches to the same problem. So anyway, here you go. This I submit as my design 1.0 for the science farm. And I think it's a pretty good one. Seems to be working pretty good. But I have a feeling if I go off planet or if I go somewhere else on the planet, its science is going to trickle down to nothing because the chunks will be not spawned in. Maybe. I don't know. It's worth looking at. I think I'll try it. I definitely plan on trying it on my next survival game. Put any questions or any other ideas in the comments. This was the one thing for automation that popped into my head, and I gotta say, I'm not quite sure what to do next. Like the Hisbane farm sounds interesting. I just need to know what would be the use for it. What could we do with it? What are some things that would be useful in the game that we can automate? I'm very curious to know. So if y'all have any ideas, just let me know. Oh, I mean, there you go. Smelting copper, smelting items. I could see that. but, you know, what are some others? Can we do things that are specific to specific elements? I don't know. But whatever you think of, yeah, just leave your ideas in the comments. You know, any complaints and all that, just put them in the comments. I read them. Okay, so I do want to give you guys a heads up. Over this past weekend, I was playing with this idea, testing this idea, and I'm sitting in the chair, and all of a sudden I heard a pop and a sizzle. And next thing I know, the room is filled with the smell, the universal smell of smoke being let out of electronics. And all of you should know that smell. Then I looked down at the laptop, and the little blue light that indicates that it's being charged turned yellow, which means it's no longer being charged, it's on battery, which means the power supply got cooked. So for whatever, and I looked at it, it's not covered up by anything, it's just in the open air, but it was extremely hot. So I don't know if it's a fault in the power supply itself, or it's a bad design. I kind of thought it was a bad design from the get-go. For a laptop, has a very powerful graphics card, but I'm not sure the power supply can keep up with it, or at least it needs to be beefier. Right now, it's running on an older power supply I had that fits, but it's a higher wattage power supply. It's almost twice the capacity, and I had it lying around from when I needed it before, and it's doing the job, but it's under warranty. Dell says they're going to fix it, so they've told me they're going to fix it today, but then they get a call saying, yeah, well, we have nobody scheduled, we have nobody available to come service your stuff. So I don't know. It also, when I ran the test, it also said the video card was toast, and it seems to be running okay, but maybe there's a fault that I don't know about. Maybe that's why it's running hot. I don't know. Also, the keyboard stopped working. So the remote keyboard that I've been using anyway in the 2 PC scenario, I'm just going to use even when I'm at home. So I guess we'll see. But anyway, I wanted to give you guys that heads up. In case videos stop coming, it means the computer is toast and I can't record anything else. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Just wanted to give you a heads up. But anyway, if you like what you see, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and let me know what you think of the new camera position, the quality. Let me know if it works for you. Better than the last time. I think it's better than the last time. I think so. But yeah, just let me know. Put it in the comments. And but anyway, hopefully I will see you in the next one. Let me hear your ideas, and I'll try to put them into use. Y'all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next one. Ciao.